Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review of RuneQuest, The Smoking Ruin, and Other Stories from Chaosium Inc. This is written by Christopher Klug, Steve Perrin, Jeff Richard, Greg Stafford, and Jason Durrell. This 192-page hardcover is available now, carries an MSRP of $37.99, which includes the PDF if you order from Chaosium Inc. or one of their partners. Now, you can grab just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $18.99. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got The Smoking Ruin and Other Stories. Few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Chaosium Inc. were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's important that you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a very good feel for what you're going to find inside this volume. Now, there are a trio of adventures within. So if you are a player and your game master has picked up The Smoking Ruin and Other Stories, maybe they're thinking of getting this, by all means, I recommend tune out now. Even though I'm going to stay away from major spoilers, there are going to be some spoilers, and you don't want surprises of these adventures ruined simply because you watched this video. Now, having said that, if your game master is thinking of picking this book up, let them know about this video. So that way they can approach this and make an informed buying decision. Right, so let's start off by taking a look at the credits because there were a lot of people involved bringing this book to fruition. A lot of artists. In fact, the artwork throughout, really well done, very, very solid. I'm not going to read the artists' names because we'd be here for a bit, and I guarantee I'd mispronounce at least half of them. But do want to give credit where credit is due. So this book contains some locations, so we get kind of gazetteers about a trio of different locations, and then we have a trio of adventures. So we are going to start off with a discussion of the South Wilds, which is the region where these adventures will take place. So we get a bit of the mythology of the area, some of the history of the region, as well as some background about the troll wars that took place. Trolls will play an important part in these adventures. They are actually the most numerous of the non-human races in Glorantha. They are not evil, but they are warlike. So it's important to keep that in mind. They're sort of along the lines of orcs in other fantasy role-playing games. But as I mentioned, they're not evil. They are just kind of warlike and savage, though. So we'll also get some information about important locations within the South Wilds. Then we're going to move on into the Wild Temple. And I love this location. This is a location, it's kind of a forgotten temple, and all these various different creatures visit it or make it its home. And we get a lot of exposure to beast men, which are very, very interesting. And I got to say, this almost has a bit of a Midsummer's Night Dream vibe to the proceedings, which I really like a lot. I will mention that this location really isn't tied into the adventures in the book, but it is a very unique locale to include into your campaigns. Then we're going to get into the Smoking Ruin, which is the longest of the adventures that are contained in this volume. And I have to say, this is an awesome adventure. This adventure is a great example of what sets RuneQuest apart from any other fantasy role-playing games out there. Because in this adventure, you're going to find that ancestry, family, history, the cults that the player characters belong to, the tribes that the player characters belong to, are going to play an important role in this adventure. Something else I want to point out with the Smoking Ruin is, even though it's a single adventure, and it is a fairly long adventure, I could see this taking quite a few sessions to complete, there is so much gameable material. You could easily use this as a jumping off point for an entire campaign that ties into the locations and the NPCs that you're going to find in this adventure. I should point out that as a game master, RuneQuest can be a rather challenging role-playing game to run, especially if you are running this adventure kind of as it's written. There are a lot of things going on. There are a lot of moving pieces to this adventure. There's a very important NPC you really want to make sure that the players gain a connection to, because something's going to happen at the end of this adventure, which can kind of lead to a bit of a melancholy ending. I don't want to say sad. I don't want to say disappointing. I don't want to say it'll make people angry, but it can lead to a feeling of melancholy, which is actually what the game master is going to be shooting for. It's also important to keep in mind that RuneQuest is not a combat-heavy role-playing game. So your players can't approach this as they do other fantasy role-playing games, because if they try to fight everything that they run across, every challenge that they face, they are going to find that they are going to go through player characters left and right, because combat in RuneQuest is very, very deadly. But I absolutely love this adventure. There is so much going on with this. And this is also one of those kind of adventures where the players are probably going to think that it's going to go in one direction and it goes in a completely unexpected direction. Love that about this as well. As I mentioned, as you can see, just as I'm paging through here, this does have a lot to this adventure. Then we're going to move into the Lost Valley, which is another gazetteer portion. Lost Valley is very cool because one aspect of RuneQuest that a lot of people love is the fact that dinosaurs exist in Glorantha. So this is a location where the player characters are going to encounter various different dinosaurs. So I love that. Then we get into our next adventure. And I got to be honest, I am not really keen on this adventure. Essentially, what happens is this group of beastmen are laying siege to this village, and the village has been protected by a sorcerer over the years, and the sorcerer is nowhere to be found. So the player characters find themselves trying to locate the sorcerer right here. Now we've located him. It's right here. And this kind of has a bit of a D&D vibe to it. Something else that I do want to mention about this adventure is it's very easy for the player characters to think that they should just fight everything that they run across, try to break this siege, which is a very bad idea, especially if they try to do that before they've located the missing sorcerer. So not a bad adventure, just not my favorite that I've run across. Now, the final adventure, the Grove of the Green Rock, I like quite a bit because this is an ongoing tale. So this adventure actually spans years. This makes for an excellent adventure to drop into your campaign that you can return to from time to time as there are new developments going on in this adventure. Something else that I do like about this is that the player characters will find themselves dealing with elves, which is not something that I've seen in a lot of adventures, at least that I am familiar with. So I do like this adventure quite a bit. And that is how we will wrap up RuneQuest, The Smoking Ruin, and other stories. As you can see with these handouts, production quality throughout, really nice. The artwork, the cartography, all top-notch. It's what we've come to expect from Chaosium Inc. So there's a peek inside the Smoking Ruin and other stories. Let's swing on over to the other camera. I'm going to share some final thoughts and give this a review score. So as I mentioned, RuneQuest is a very unique role-playing game, and it takes, in my opinion, a more mature group of players and a more mature game master to really get the most out of RuneQuest and the adventures that I've seen published for it. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody off, and I'm also not saying that you need to have players and game masters who are in their 30s to enjoy it. That's not what I mean by a mature audience. What I mean is you have to have gamers and game masters who are willing to take other approaches as opposed to just trying to fight everything they run across and try to overcome every challenge with force. That does not work well in RuneQuest. I do like 2 of the 3 adventures in the Smoking Ruin and other stories. In fact, the Smoking Ruin, I think, is absolutely fantastic and a prime example why RuneQuest is such a special fantasy role-playing game. Now, that Sorcerer's Tower adventure, like I said, I'm not too keen on that. It's got really a D&D feel to it, which I don't think vibes with the overall feel of RuneQuest, but it's not a bad adventure by any stretch of the imagination. To be honest, I would have probably liked to have seen a 4th adventure rather than having the 3 different locales. I would keep 2 of the locales, and I would have liked to have seen maybe the Lost Valley be replaced by a short adventure. But still, all in all, the Smoking Ruin and other stories for RuneQuest is a really, really good book to add to your collection. I like it quite a lot. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give RuneQuest, The Smoking Ruin, and Other Stories an 8.5 out of 10. It's that good. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, The Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.